Anytime maritime.
Anytime maritime.
Thank you very much. So I'm Anders from OSK Design, and during my presentation today, I'll try to give you a little insight of what we see as the future of especially electrification and double-enders. Just a snapshot on where we are today in OSK. You have seen these pictures maybe before, but large RoPax vessels, the Moby Fantasy on the upper left is the world's largest RoPax vessel. And then we have the P&O Pioneer in the middle, where we achieved 40% fuel saving on a battery hybrid solution. And then the latest from TT Line, the Peter Pan. But also on the electrical side, I've included two ships at the bottom. Fanø was the first all-electric ferry in Denmark, and Molslinjen Nertus has just been delivered 2 months ago as it's sailing on a domestic route. It's the first all-electric ferry also predefined for autonomy or prepared for autonomy. And then I brought Gotlandsbolaget, since Jonas was also here on the presentation stage today, to just remind us about that very nice project you have over there. But let's say the first case I'm going to show you is the project that we have developed for Molslinjen and their new high-speed ferries. Not long ago, it was considered or conceived as being impossible to do a high-speed ferry of this magnitude in all electric. And so I'm pleased that OSK has been in the driving seat, together with Molslinjen, of course, about the development of this project. With its size and its capacity, we have achieved by a lot of optimization the possibilities. But there has also been cut some corners to make it possible. We have looked a little bit about the port infrastructures. You will see that this is the first vessel which is drive-through. It hasn't been on a fast ferry for a long time, not since Molslinjen did it some 20 years ago. But it can do the crossing in 1.5 hours with a battery capacity of 45 megawatt. So we have heard much about the charging systems, and I'm not going to dwell into that, just to mention that we have a CO2 reduction of 32,000 tons each year on this route. It represents a significant part of the Danish CO2 from the ferry fleet. Yeah. And then another case, that's what we developed also for Gotland when the tender was opened last time for Gotland. And by this project, we achieved a 3 hours and 15 minute crossing with 26 knots on a double-ender, pure electric. And that has some significant implications. You would see that we have 3 azimuth units in each end of the vessel. It's a pure double-ender. It's a diesel-electric hybrid in the sense that we have engines with backup, because we know that charging infrastructure fails from time to time. And it has a steel hull with alu superstructure. You can see here we move towards the direction of what Johan was also explaining yesterday in his talks about introducing aluminium and work with the lightweight construction of the ferries. But with this vessel here, we are capable of sailing between Gotland and mainland in 3 hours. The current operation is 3 hours, and we have added 15 minutes, and that's what it takes to do an electric route. But when we then look at the energy consumption for such a route, you can see that in 3 hours and 15 minutes, we burn 43,000 kilowatts of, so it's comparable to what we do at Molslinjen these days. And you can see that the speed is only 22.8. So we reduce the speed requirement a little as we have added 15 minutes to the crossing. But what brings us to a new level is that the average CO2 content per kilowatt in Sweden last year was 41 gram of CO2. And that means that we can do the full crossing in just 1.8 ton of CO2 with an electrification. I'm of course super interested to hear about the numbers for the project that you have, Jonas, on your drawing board these days. And as we heard earlier this morning also about Stena Electra and so forth, you can see that the similar case can be built up at Frederikshavn and in Tallinn and as I say here on Visby. Some of the key takeaways in this is that when we have these large capacities, shore capacity is needed. We need to establish battery banks at shore side to be able to charge constantly and then fast charge into the vessels. But it's also super important that ship owners try to look holistic at the power infrastructure, because there can also be a business model around this power source so that you contribute to the society. In Denmark now we have flat rate on electric vehicles. You can charge for 100 euros per month, flat rate. And some operators, they are now giving a discount on 50% if you put your car's battery back to the community so that the utility company can pull and push energy into the electric cars. And it is exactly the same with this type of battery storage. We have to remember that additional business model because it will add to the benefit of the vessel and the infrastructure in total. Yeah. Then I'll talk a little bit about Lightcraft. Lightcraft was also mentioned by the panelist yesterday, Johan, and it has some significant implications. I have brought a series of vessels that we have designed all the way from a 40-meter double-ender, 70 and a 95, so they are already fully designed in OSK and they are in 100% aluminium prepared for once the approval is in place. We have 4 routes which are interested in this technology, and so these capacities match, of course, their requirements. Some renderings of the vessel, you can see it's a typical double-ender. It has a hoistable car deck, and this 95-meter vessel has a capacity for around 600 passengers and 180 cars. But when we look at the first vessel I showed you, the Grotte, which is in the second column, that's a fully electric vessel already today with aluminium superstructure. And it was built 3 years ago. So if we go full electric on that route with an aluminium double-ender instead, just 3 years ago, we can now reduce 33% on the fuel economy. And the same is for the second green column, the Tyrfing. Here we can see that is the new build that has just been delivered 2 months ago from Turkey. And if we were allowed to build that vessel 100% aluminium, there's an additional 35% energy consumption reduction. And then we have Princess Isabella, which is the first LNG-powered vessel. Here we have a 30% reduction. That vessel sails much more on a shallow water area, and therefore the benefits are not so high, because Isabella was built 10 years ago and it's a steel structure. So you could expect more, but there are other constraints that limit that saving potential. Good. So that was all from me. OSK, steered by vision, powered by insight. Happy to take any questions afterwards. And then I would like to give the floor to Pino and Andrea and hear about the Volvo Penta development. Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm Pino Musolino, and I'm the CEO of Ali Lauro. I'm a new entry, so much so that I'm still in the engine running in stage. So we're talking about engines. So apologies if I'm not perfect and tip-top, but let me start with this. I want to thank our Filipino friends, because I share exactly the same enthusiasm and love for what we're doing. And I'm happy to see that I'm not the only cuckoo that has the same attitude, but it's shared and spread across continents and countries. We are in a business that carry mostly a very special cargo, which is human beings. So, for as much as we put of technicalities and innovation and technologies, we should never forget about that. We do things for people, with people, and together with other people. And I love that, and it's one of the reasons why these sort of events are important. So thanks also to INTERFERRY and the whole organization. Well, if I understood well, this is the 17th panel, and you are in a very superstitious area of Italy, so it would be a no-go normally, but I take it as a good omen. I want to defeat the jinx and take it that we're opening the 17th panel with something nice. As you can see, well, the pictures are speaking for themselves, so no much to add about that. But who are we? Well, we love to define ourselves as a legacy of maritime excellence, because the company was founded by a very innovative, a very, visionary person, Agostino Lauro, in 1944, in the midst of World War II, by the way, which is probably not the ideal time when you found a new company, and particularly a new company of ships that are hanging around a war zone. And yet, he did it. And now we became a universe of more than 20 companies and doing different kind of things, including 2 shipyards. And I'm proud to say that, because we do most of our dry docking, refitting, and ordinary maintenance of all the fleet in our own shipyards. So we love to think that we have a closed circuit of things that we do. But of course, when it's not enough, we work with partners and trusted partners like Volvo Penta. So we are what we are. Mostly, you probably took one of our boats to come here in these days. So please, if you have some complaints, talk to me. But if you have something good to say, it's all merit of the team. We connect mainly on all year round or on seasonal lines, most of the islands, and including the Sicilian islands, but we are aiming at expanding our network, or so they told me when they hired me. And few numbers just to give an idea of what we're doing. 37 destinations connected to date, 5 million passengers carried on our vessels on yearly basis. It's not 47, there are now 50, the ships and counting. We're negotiating on new acquisitions, and a fair amount and a fair share of nautical miles sailed per annum. So I spent, in my whole professional life, I've done only shipping, either port side, cargo side, vessel side. I'm even an officer of the Navy, so in the active reserve, so I sailed quite a lot. I spent the last 20 years in listening about how the industry should decarbonize, innovate, go towards zero and everything. And most of the time I hear about fantasy stories, beautiful fairy tales, completely detached from the reality. And I think it's about time to do things instead of talking about things, because we're sea people, we're rough and very pragmatic. And what we're discussing today, and then Andrea will go more in depth into the technicalities, because he's a master in doing that, is that we are talking about a story of real changes. We haven't made a render, we made a new vessel and refitted it with an engine and a system that is providing savings of 18% of CO2 emissions, a significant reduction of SOx and NOx, as much as you can go, 90%. And another thing that is not spoken enough is the minimization of acoustic pollution. Again, we carry people, and the comfort of the people is also about boarding a vessel that has less noise, less troubles, a beautiful experience. Again, our our Filipino colleague said, oh, you know, we carry people with something to say. And it's nicer to say it not screaming, because you cannot hear the voice of your partner sitting by your side. So again, and it's quite interesting that the energy, the reduction emission is practically the same in terms of energy efficiency. Again, I would like to point it out without any polemic, but the low-hanging fruit in our sector is called efficiency. It's doing the same with less. Meanwhile, we are inventing the silver bullet solution, the magic things, the cold fusion, whatever. We can do more with less, and that's really a low-hanging fruit. And now I leave the floor to Andrea for the technical things, but I wanted to thank him, because I was said that I couldn't promote my company, but I can promote his. So people are making the difference, and all the efforts and all the results that I'm presenting to you were not possible without the commitment and the professionalism and the true partnership that we have with Volvo Penta. Please, Andrea.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrea Piccione. I'm the head of business for Italy. And thanks, Pino, for your introduction. And I will start telling you a big thanks to the INTERFERRY family. I was missing you a lot. Last time was in the Philippines, and I still remember dancing and dinner, I tell you. So I hope this evening will be at least the same. I will tell you a short story as a part of our partnership with Ali Lauro. It is a success story built on trust and relationship. And I tested it yesterday. I had to go to the Napoli harbor yesterday morning, and I was thinking to go by car. No way. The Jove jet was moored here. I took 40 minutes to get downtown Naples with a beautiful cornetto al cioccolato and a coffee. So I got relaxed, and I got a very good experience. So traveling with ferries here, it's really a good experience, and I'm proud having provided something to this ferry in terms of experience on board, comfort, and consumption. I link to what Pino said about efficiency. At Volvo Penta, we strongly think that the way for sustainability goes through efficiency and building an integrated platform for the future. Despite the type of energy you put on board, doesn't matter if it's oil, batteries, or any type of use, the better you use energy, the better it is. We started with this project. It's a catamaran. You can dig in the numbers in the presentation later on, but I just want to show you how we approach this kind of projects. Having under our control the full propulsion system, we can provide and work together with the shipyard since the early phases of the project. We start sharing data, they provide us information, and we provide them a complete report on the performance based on more than 20 years of experience installing IPS. Then we come to some results that has to be shared with the shipyard. I sign with my blood the performance of this ferry, and luckily we were very, very close to what we calculated. We make different simulations at different loads, calculating the different consumption and speeds. Once the project is ongoing, we deliver full assistance to the shipyard installing the components. So these are some pictures taken during the refit. We understand that it's an important refit operations, not only based on replacing engines, but changing the boat itself in his key components. But it pays off at the end, because we provide everything from props to controls to everything, and under is our responsibility. Then we have to face the reality and the sea. So we have to check if our predictions are good, and we are very happy and proud to see that we were very, very close to the numbers we said and we shared with our customers. Not only speed and consumption, but a lot of different parameters that will be soon integrated in a platform that will share data with the owner and the operator. So this is a big plus. And I would say these allow us to create relationships with the shipyards and with the operators. That is very important for us as a base to build the future in this business, especially here in Naples with a high density of ferries and operation. So I would resume it as efficiency through partnership. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to present here. It's my first time in INTERFERRY. So far, so good. My name is Anne-Sophie Sagbakkenes, and I work as a consultant in DNV, mainly working with decarbonization pathways for different ship segments, also ports, energy providers, and governments. And today I will present an economic study for decarbonization fuel strategies for RoPax. So electrification is perhaps the most efficient way to use renewable energy sources. However, in this study, we have compared other alternative fuel strategies. So first, the case study input parameters. This study investigated the economic feasibility of different fuel strategies for a 25,000 gross tonnage RoPax in operation. So we have 4 different fuel strategies investigated. That was conventional fuel, or MGO, LNG, and methanol, and also compared them against onboard carbon capture. So the capture unit in this study has the capacity to capture 80% of the total CO2 annually using 30% additional fuel. The vessel considered is in operation, hence we're evaluating a retrofit of a ship that will happen in 2035. The annual sailing distance of the vessel is 65,000 nautical miles, using 6,500 tons of MGO annually, and it's also operating 100% within the EU. As mentioned, we have 4 fuel strategies considered in this study. First, the baseline vessel. It can use MGO and also green MGO, and it will not convert. Then we have a methanol dual fuel vessel that can use green MGO and MGO before conversion, and then it retrofits in 2035, enabling it to use green methanol. So not fossil methanol considered in this study. Then we have an LNG strategy that can use also fossil MGO and MGO, green MGO before conversion, then also LNG and green LNG after conversion. Lastly, we have the onboard carbon capture case that will retrofit a capture system and storage for carbon capture. All these strategies can also choose to pay their way out of decarbonization, so they can choose to pay penalties and also Tier 1 and Tier 2 costs for the net zero framework of IMO. The model that we use in this study is called the Fuel Path Model, which is a tool for assessing and comparing decarbonization strategies for individual ships or fleets. The same model is used in DNV's maritime forecast, for those of you who have heard of this report. We have many different input parameters, and listing them would take a long time, but they're considering the fuel, the ship specification, of course, and also the different fuel strategies input that's different for each strategy. So then we choose which regulations the ship has to comply with. In this study, we have included all of them, or many of them that is relevant within the EU. So it's Net Zero Framework of IMO, it's EU ETS, and also Fuel EU Maritime. We do scenario-based analysis, not to find what is most likely, but to find the most robust strategy across several different scenarios. So therefore, we have 5 different price scenarios in this study regarding fuel prices, CO2 deposit cost for the CCS case, and so on. So then we get annual costs optimized year by year and for each fuel strategy. And then we get a lot of different results to compare. Among them, total cost of ownership. So this is the first graph from results for this study. And this, the total cost of ownership, gives us a good indication of what the most optimal fuel pathway would be for the case study ship. So here we see the total cost of ownership accumulated for the baseline scenario. First, we can notice that all the strategies pay some penalties or some carbon cost. They pay EUAs, they pay Tier 1 and Tier 2 cost, and one of them also pays for fuel EU penalty. We can also see that for this scenario, choosing alternative fuels would be less costly than continuing with a more conventional setup. Among these 4 technologies, carbon capture has in this study the lowest total cost of ownership, and for this scenario. And as it can continue to use cheaper fossil fuels rather than paying for more expensive carbon neutral fuels, but while still reducing CO2 emissions very significantly. This next graph shows the range of annual costs for the 5 different price scenarios collected. So the yellow area is the range of annual costs for the conventional, the LNG, and the methanol vessel. And the green area compared against is the onboard carbon capture. So this shows that onboard carbon capture can compete in this study with other decarbonization solutions. As we can see, the range of annual costs is in the lower area of the range, at least after 2037. Then on to some other aspects in the economics. We have operational and technical implications when using carbon capture. In this study, we capture about 50 cubic meters, or a bit more than 50 tons of CO2 per day. And if we consider a route where we deposit CO2 every other day, we would need 100 cubic meters of storage. Then we would also need the deposit infrastructure to be in place in port. So here it would be every other port, but still it needs to be developed. We would also need trained crew to be able to operate the capture system safely. And lastly, one possible technology to explore is the solution where you have containerized storage, where CO2 is collected and transported on and off by trailers. But whether this is economically beneficial to having more conventional CO2 storage is not looked into in this study. However, we would need about 4 containers in order to store the same amount of CO2. Some technical challenges is the footprint and the weight on board. This could affect the capacity of the vessel. It could also affect the stability of the vessel depending on where you choose to place the capture system and also the storage. Safe storage when handling CO2 and also for RoPax would be very important, as mentioned, where the cargo is people. We also have to account for additional fuel consumption, 30% additional fuel consumption in this case. And lastly, it would be an individual it would be different for each individual ship if carbon capture is feasible for that ship. So it might not be a solution that fits all. In a white paper that DNV published last year, we looked a bit more into carbon capture in detail for the whole maritime industry, so concerning many different segments. This figure from that paper summarizes the challenges and opportunities for different ship segments. And if we just look at the RoPax segment here, we can see that one of the potential benefits for RoPax is the need for less volume due to the high frequency of port calls. However, it will be important to have acceptance for simultaneous operations in order for the business case to be as good as possible. So we need to be able to unload cars and passengers and also offload CO2 in order for it to be as good as possible. One benefit or challenge could be the integration with local CO2 value chains. But this does, of course, depend on where you are and if this is at all relevant. One challenge is the weight capacity, as mentioned, and it can limit the capacity for cargo or for people. And lastly, one potential showstopper could be passenger safety, and it will definitely affect where you can store the CO2 on board. Lastly, some conclusions. So this study shows an advantage for alternative fuels compared to conventional fuels. For this case study ship, it will be different if you do a study on another ship. It shows that carbon capture can compete with other decarbonization solutions for RoPax, depending, of course, on fuel prices, carbon cost, deposit cost, and regulatory acceptance. Then, for this case, it would be sufficient with 100 cubic meters of storage tanks to capture the CO2 from 2 days of voyage. One advantage for the RoPax segment is that it has frequent port calls, which allows smaller storage tanks than many other segments. We've looked at projects where we're looking at thousands of cubic meters needed to store the amount of CO2 captured on one voyage. So a bit more an advantage there for RoPax. And lastly, passenger safety and additional weight are some of the technical barriers. Thank you.
Thank you, Anders. Thank you, INTERFERRY, for having us. It's good to be under the theme of connectivity to do this together. So, my name is Jonas Moberg. I'm head of new buildings on the shipping company Gotland. We have some ownership of ships and ship operations and a different type of routes every here and there, but a fairly medium-sized ship owner, I would say. Everybody knows it's a complex world we're heading towards. I will show you one example where we have a strategy and we follow that, and that's what we do, but we have full respect that others think differently. So I have Luke with me, you step in later, okay? Let's go. So, our core business has been servicing the island of Gotland in the middle of the Baltics since 1865. At that time, a steamship, fairly small, but it was some sort of a multi-fuel ship. That's interesting. We have been developing this service for many years based on oil and diesel, I would say. And today, it's looking like this, that we service with multiple RoPax ferries, 200 meters long, and as mentioned before, it's a high-speed concept, almost 30 knots, so it requires huge amount of energy. Today, we run them on a mix because we started 20 years ago. We realized that the customers, they're happy with our service and the high-speed concept, but it is putting a lot of stress on the environment. So we were looking into changing to cleaner fuels. And at that time, those of you who remember, everybody was searching for the next fuel. And today it's quite obvious that everything we have is necessary. I remember particularly Johan Roos, you were clear about arguing against LNG, for instance, and promote maybe methanol, but I hope also you understand today that, okay, we have the palette we have to work with. We were sitting at that time without infrastructure in our vicinity. We decided to go for gas as fuel, as a primary source, but it was difficult because without infrastructure, why build a ship that cannot get the fuel we need? And the people who wanted to provide LNG, they were saying pretty much the same. You don't have a ship to fuel, you're not a customer of ours. So we had good ideas, but we didn't go further. So at that time, connectivity, we joined forces with the Viking Line at the time, starting to develop the ship side of it. They later built Viking Grace. We later built these two vessels, Visby and Gotland. And the infrastructure, they did their part under some agreement. So they actually built a terminal and a fueling arrangement. So today, coming from, let's say, 20 years back, we have done one circle of the problem where who will start? But we have done it, and today we have these ships under operation. And just to mention a little bit the complexity in our traffic is that we have, you could say, two stakeholders. We run this under a contract with the government, but today it's 8 years long. So there is a little bit limit on how much you can invest during a period of that, and then maybe you're out. And then we have the customers that during the years we have learned that for the long route, the customers regard the route as a short when it's close to 3 hours or less. But if it comes closer to 4 hours, it's more regarded as a long voyage, and passenger figures are going down. Today, we went with a high-speed concept from approximately 1 million passengers to 2 million passengers. But it's energy consuming, but we have the possibility now to run this operation in a different fuel. So we invest in biogas, so going from LNG to LBG. And we also have this investment based on manure, so we actually have a negative offset. We have quite good environmental performance in this type of fuel. But as you understand, what's next, and if everybody would go that road, we wouldn't have the biogas for everybody. So we're thinking now, okay, what is the next generation? What is the fuel in the vicinity of our operation? What if demand is higher than supply? Reliability of supply, we have to support the island, etc., etc. We came to the conclusion that we had a vision of going, in the beginning, battery, but we saw the bottleneck of charging. We had a vision of going on the fuel side for hydrogen, and we saw another bottleneck. It was actually the same. It was the connection to the power grid that takes, in Sweden, typically 10 years. So in order to build a ship right now, we had to think a little bit, a little of reality check. So we signed a ship together with Åstal that is possible to run on existing fuel today with a door opener to the future, going with hydrogen as fuel. We have done it together, and here's a little bit the challenge. This is a complex design. It's a little bit of a development project, and put, let's say, the balance of size, weight, speed, and operational and customer needs. That is difficult for one party, like the shipyard, to do, and for us to do ourselves. So, and a little bit chicken and egg situation where shipyard, they don't want to develop if they don't get the order. And we cannot order if there is no product available. So, what to do? No one knows it all. Let's join forces. Shipyard and owner in this case. And how to get this going? We signed a memorandum of understanding to start with, start developing together. We also paid you some money instead of giving them to you, Anders. So second step, we have actually placed the order. That makes the shipyard pretty confident that, okay, you could run all the way to make this happen. So that's where we are today. And we have had, let's say, a long timeline if you compare to some other projects that goes pretty much faster. But we have been developing for now it's many years, but now the ship is under order, and a couple of years away, we want to change this from, let's say, word to action, from vision to reality. So please step in. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonas. Good afternoon, everyone. So at this point, I hope you'll agree that the Gotland Horizon X is an incredibly exciting project because of its capability to operate on multiple sustainable fuels and from a technical viewpoint. And as Jonas has explained, this project was in development for several years, much longer than a HSC new build would ordinarily require, but in this case was necessary to ensure that the vessel design, particularly the propulsion system, was feasible and the risks understood with this first-of-class project. A concept can be abstract, whereas a design has to be functional and satisfy requirements. And both the operator and the shipyard share risk when it comes to a new build vessel. So both parties entering into a design agreement for the purpose of seeking approval in principle from DNV was an important step for this project. And for those operators who are considering a new build or a retrofit, and your design brief includes sustainable fuels, hybrid arrangements, or electrification, I strongly suggest that you overestimate the time necessary for developing the design and putting together the business case. Not every new build or retrofit is going to require an approval in principle, but with any of these newer technologies, it's important to identify and understand the risks so that both the design and the supporting business case are feasible. The brief for this project was how could we design and build a HSC vessel with hydrogen capabilities based on the Horizon series concept that Gotland Tech Development had already begun to develop. And that was a hydrogen-powered conventional RoPax fitted with marine gas turbines in combined cycle. So you'll see on the screen here a collection of slides that we used during the first 12 months while developing the propulsion system design. And more than just a demonstration of my PowerPoint drawing skills, they illustrate part of the journey we went on with Gotland Tech Development, trying to prioritise system efficiency and technical constraints. For example, we looked at numbers of water jets per hull, combined and integrated electric propulsion options, open cycle and combined cycle, and in fact, much more than just the options I've listed there. But for each option, we worked in close collaboration with Gotland Tech Development on the opportunities and practicalities and the risks, until we reached a point of design maturity that we could also invite the other major OEMs and system integrators to collaborate with us as well. And this collective collaboration was really key to establishing the requirements that we could place in the propulsion system design that ensured it would be feasible, prioritises efficiency, and be integrated into a HSC vessel design. The final propulsion system design is one that prioritises fuel flexibility and efficiency and balances technical complexity. Each of the catamaran hulls are fitted with a multi-fuel marine gas turbine mechanically connected to a steerable water jet. A once-through steam generator uses the exhaust heat to supply steam to a steam turbine, which is mechanically connected to a fixed booster water jet. A condenser unit completes the steam system, and both shaft lines are fitted with gearboxes, with power take-off and power take-in, and these are connected to a vessel electrical system and a modest battery energy storage system. The multi-fuel marine gas turbines are key to Gotlandsbolaget's ability to identify their fuels of today and of tomorrow. However, marine gas turbines have a deserved reputation for being particularly thirsty when it comes to fuel. And you may have noticed that I've mentioned prioritising efficiency about 3 times now. Compared to a modern dual-fuel internal combustion engine running on LNG, the 13 megawatt gas turbines that will be fitted to Gotland Horizon X are approximately 14% less efficient. In simple terms, for the same power, the gas turbine fuel consumption is expected to be about 40% higher. But with the steam turbine powered from the heat of the marine gas turbine exhaust, another 5.4 megawatts of power is available for the same LNG fuel consumption. So that's about 42% more power for the same amount of fuel. This pushes the combined efficiency to almost that of the modern dual-fuel internal combustion engine. And the result is a highly efficient propulsion system that can run on multiple sustainable fuels, has low NOx emissions, and very low levels of methane slip. Gotland Horizon X is a truly visionary project that addresses the current impasse between regulatory constraints and the availability and affordability of sustainable marine fuels. It will have a low reliance on port infrastructure development and make use of both existing and developing supply chains for sustainable fuels. Austal is proud to have partnered with Gotlandsbolaget on this project, and we look forward to it being delivered from our Austal Philippines shipyard in mid-2028. And on behalf of Jonas and myself, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bart Kowaliński, and I'm leading the development of digital products in marine sector of Rolls-Royce Solutions. While I was preparing for this conference, I was wondering what connections mean for me personally. And I have this memory in my head, you know, from the childhood, a phone ringing in the middle of the night. It was my father calling. He was a seaman for his whole professional life. And for whatever reason, these phone calls were always in the night. Yeah? So it was Szczecin radio calling, and I guess you all still know how it is talking on the radio. So one person is talking and the other one is listening, and then the other way around. It's not really a dialogue. It's not how we use the phones nowadays. And I myself, as a kid, I had like a standard text I was always telling to my father. So at school, everything is fine, and the dog is doing good too. And for whatever reason, this information about the dog was very important to me. But I can imagine now it was very important to my dad as well. You know, this is this part of home that we can transfer to the seaman. This is something saying, yeah, everything is going well. And some years later, we were already able to write first emails, and you were allowed to send actually 1 email per day, or it took 1 day actually to deliver an email, but anyway, you could exchange much more information. It was the first time when I learned the difference between bit and byte, and I will talk a little bit more about it soon. And when I think about it now, you know, with our current digital solutions, we are generating approximately 20 megabytes of data per hour looking for a standard hybrid vessel. So actually a completely different dimension than this what we had in the past. Our vision at Rolls-Royce is powering, protecting, and connecting the modern world. And I think this word connecting is really, really important, especially if you look at our different divisions. So from the left, civil aviation's very specific business, 35 types of aircraft. So, you know, usually we would look maybe at the bottom line, what the revenue is, but today let's focus on this top line, yeah? So civil aviation, defense, 160 customers in over 100 countries, so a huge network. But when you look to power systems, to MTU, where I'm working as well, we have over 40,000 customers in 13 different industries. So this is a completely different network and completely different requirements from the perspective of a digital product that we are talking about. So while we were looking at this data topic, you know, coming back to the question like what is the difference between bit and byte, and looking at the data that we are collecting right now, you know, 1 kilobyte, 1024 bytes, 1 megabyte, 1024 kilobytes, and so on and so on. So 1 big gigabyte is in the end 1 billion bytes. And yeah, when I think I was 11, and I had to learn actually that 1 byte is 8 bits, because in the end you had to pay per bit and not per byte while sending an email over the internet, over the satellite. And yeah, it would mean that the cost of 1 gigabyte right now would be, not right now, then the cost of a gigabyte would be around $6 million. And considering that we are generating between 7 and 10 gigabytes of data every month, I think we should look at the value of data that we have in a slightly different perspective. And now, in order to focus on our customers, in order to focus on the challenges of ferry operators, I think that the list you can see on the screen is not a surprise to anybody here in the room, yeah? So you have high number of ships in operation with different ship types, different hull types, different sizes, on different routes, with very different propulsion systems, and in the end, different times between overhaul, maintenance schedule, and on top with different rotating crew. The effort of collecting data is very high, and it's very high complexity in order to analyze the data to get the valuable insights. And in order to solve this equation, we teamed up with Liberty Lines, and we started to analyze the data of Liberty Lines for the vessels which are equipped with our MTU hybrid propulsion systems. So if we take a look at Liberty Lines, they have 32 vessels with 100,000 departures every year, with 3.5 million passengers every year. And in the end, looking at all these routes, they were implementing 9 new hybrid vessels into the existing fleet. So the first question was, on which route shall we send the first hybrid vessel? Where do we have the possibility to build an infrastructure? How to gradually take out of service vessels with conventional propulsion, and how to utilize vessels with hybrid propulsion system. While the first decisions were made when to send the first vessel, how to run the operation, how to train the crew, we immediately started to collect the data. And in the end, yeah, it's all about data in order to optimize a fleet like this. So the first step, what we look at is live data. And I think we shouldn't underestimate this one. If you have a live access to the data from the vessel, you can really support your crew. You can really advise them as they go. Second important topic is real-time analytics. So you need to have the capability to run the analytics on board of the vessel, as well in the offline environment. And we are deploying different functionalities based on traditional engineering, but as well going into the direction of artificial intelligence, or I would even say it's more machine learning what we do. And it means we can advise the captain as he goes, so you can add additional information on the bridge in order to optimize the operation of the vessel or switch into the right mode during the operation and not analyze historical data later on with the info. You could have saved so and so much fuel yesterday, but actually you didn't. And what's coming on top is a seamless integration. You know, we have so big complexity on board, we have so many different systems, and it's still not that easy to get all the data with a single timestamp into one database. And this is essential in order to run any kind of analytics, so we need to make sure that the data that is being collected is clean and is really understandable. And now, looking at the results of our first step of cooperation with Liberty Lines, you have to imagine we are still at the beginning of the learning curve on these digital products, and we are still developing these digital products as we go. It means, looking at these results, we are developing features together with the ship owner, and we are able to deliver them as well immediately. And of course, it's all about reduction of environmental impact. And it is not one single solution that we have or one single thing to do in order to save CO2. It is a number of different advantages. Some are smaller, some are bigger. And the first one would be reducing of local air pollution, which is essential, especially if you are operating in UNESCO heritage areas. It's as well minimizing noise pollution in ports. I think we talked about it during this conference a lot. So for the nearby communities, it's very, very important. Using a hybrid system, you can as well improve the overall system efficiency. So you can imagine, for example, if in a hybrid system you are running your propulsion engines, charging the batteries, and you can switch off your gensets. You are not only running the diesel in a very good efficiency level, you're not burning fuel with the gensets, you are saving the operating hours of the gensets, so you can as well do your maintenance later. So in the end, you improve the overall system efficiency. And the next point about land charging infrastructure, I think it's more like a question or request, what can we do to improve it? Because this type of vessels will only get successful if we really can move forward with the charging infrastructure. And as we see, we still struggle here as an industry in general. And now looking at the fleets now and in the future, I believe that we will have hybrid fleets. And talking about hybrid fleets, I don't mean hybrid vessels. So we will need different kind of solutions for different kind of needs. So we will be looking into electric vessels. We will be looking into alternative fuels, hybrid vessels, and for many cases it will be the diesel, so conventional propulsion system, which will be the most efficient and as well the most environmental friendly solution. And when we are talking about digitalization, we have to take a look at the three different levels. So looking at the right-hand side, this is Ferdinando. He is the fleet manager of Liberty Lines, and we are collaborating with him directly to find out what are the pain points, what are the solutions that he needs to run his fleet. In the middle, strategic part, strategic level of cooperation, Mario and Goran, so our development team, they have a chance to talk directly to the customer in order to implement the software solutions. So something that digital products are enabling, what was not possible in the past for a traditional type of product development. And to the left-hand side, it's the crew, because we are not doing it for whoever, we are doing this for crew members. And the captain we can see on the photo, I was just told while I was preparing this presentation that he is already retired, but interesting thing is that his son joined Liberty Lines and will be taking over the same vessel as a captain. So we can somehow see this life cycle closing. And yeah, so with digital technologies, we have to remember that we are in the end connecting people. And sometimes the most important information might be that the dog is doing fine. Thank you.
I have seen a lot of people active with their phones during the session, so I'm sure there will be a ton of questions. My glasses are not as new as they should have been, so let's move over here. Jonas, the first question is for you on the electrification, if that was your new strategy.
Yeah, thank you. I was expecting that. I would say I will refer to Niklas Mortels on this Fair Leader panel this morning. He said, we know how to build a ship, but the infrastructure is almost impossible. So now we only sit and wait. We don't want to sit and wait. We want to take it step by step. The bottleneck is charging a ferry like that, not to have a ferry like that. So we have typically, I heard, was it Dover or Calais had a 4 megawatt power into the port. We are lucky, we have 10 megawatts. But if we electrify, let's say, our fleet of 3 vessels, and in peak season we potentially have, if we use your figures, it's potentially 120 megawatt in 45 minutes. And the power lines going to the island is substandard already today, so there is a third line to be built in 2031, I think. So it is a bottleneck, and if we build a ship like that now, we would have to sit or wait or run it in diesel electric mode. And we think it's better off to build a ship like we're doing right now, using existing fuel, and then continue to develop either hydrogen or could be methanol or some other fuel. And we could operate it for 8-10 years before we...
Thank you very much. So next question, that's for me. The estimated lifespan of batteries, I can't remember. But we've just done an LCA analysis on the route, and there we calculated with 4 battery changes. And I remember that the CO2 burden of the batteries, they are saved in 42 days. But I can't remember the exact lifetime of the batteries. So Pino, next question is for you. Ship sides and roof lengths, aren't they perfect for electrification in your operation?
I wish, but it's impossible. I mean, you know, we use HSC, 30 nodes operational. They start the engine in the morning and they finish in the evening, continuously going. In order to guarantee the power for that speed and operational capacity, I should have a barge behind us with a battery size with actual technology so huge that it's unrealistic. I mean, it could be in the future. I don't exclude that, but at the actual level of technology and size of the battery and the demand of energy necessary for all the operational situations, I would say that that's technically unfeasible.
I agree with you. So, but next question, that's for Anne-Sophie. Are we only drinking mineral water, or what is it used for?
I don't think everything goes to beer, but when it's captured in the ship, it's stored on board, and then it's offloaded for permanent storage. Of course, it could be that some of the CO2 would be possible to utilize either for beer or soda, or it could be used for producing e-fuels. However, I think most of it would have to be stored for permanent storage.
Yeah. Okay. It was a very interesting presentation. So next question is actually also for you. The biggest obstacle in carbon storage, what is that actually?
I think on board, I think the technology looks good, or I think it's not a too complicated technology. So if you have the room, of course, that could be an issue for RoPax. If you have the room for the capture system, it's sort of a new funnel that you have to have room for, in addition to the storage. However, I don't think that's the biggest obstacle with the storage, as mentioned. But definitely the infrastructure for depositing the CO2. So land-based CO2 capture is being developed, and the hope would be that also maritime could tap into the infrastructure here for permanent storage.
Okay, thanks a lot. Next question. Will onboard carbon capture be cheaper than direct air capture on land? That's an offset, of course, but...
Yeah, so I have not looked into this, but I guess economy of scale would prefer the on land part. However, in order for shipping to sort of do their part, I think also it would be a good thing to have CCS on board as well. But I haven't looked at those costs myself.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. Let's go down to Pino again. Competition from regional airlines, is that something you experience?
Actually, I congratulate all the questions. They are really spot on, very interesting. Well, I would say that yes, we did, but COVID has actually changed a lot since the cheap, low-cost airlines have bumped up their prices significantly. And you all experienced that because, you remember that we were using Ryan for 20 euros. Now, for 20 euros, they don't even give you the access to the toilet. So it's the competition now is way less intense because we guarantee a point-to-point, port-to-port, means city center to city center. We're more competitive, less transit time, and in terms of price, we can guarantee, well, below 300 kilometers of distance, we are more competitive or still less challenged by airlines. But that was somehow like a byproduct or a spillover effect of COVID, if one good thing came out of that, at least for the ship owning side. So I would say it was more intense when they were really, really heavy on pricing, and now it's getting more reasonable. We cover two different kind of markets.
Yeah, okay, thanks a lot. There's also a time aspect where the trigger between airlines and ships, we have a lot of advantages in time. Somebody wants to know if any of you have considered nuclear. I guess it's a question for you, Jonas, or...
I could answer a little bit, because sometimes people see a small modular reactor in news and it looks like a battery, but it's not a battery, it's a heat source. And we have a steam system on board. So, of course, it's obvious thinking we could put a heat source on board this type of vessel. But there are some other issues, and I think we will see those reactors on shore before we see them on ship, because then you could make use of district heating, low temperature. So it makes more sense to maybe use them to charge batteries or something and even it out.
Okay, excellent. So are the aluminium catamarans designed according to HSC code? Yes, they are.
Hopefully.
And I assume yours as well, Jonas, but yeah, Molslin is designed for high-speed craft code, yeah. But great presentation, they say. They were really happy about that one. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Fuel saving opportunities for your system?
Yeah, so it really depends on how we look at it. I know a standard answer, but in fact, if we are not considering the charging infrastructure, yeah, for this local pollution, we would have no emissions, which is a huge advantage going fully electric. And if going for a hybrid ferry with a high speed 25 plus knots, it's more about optimization of the propulsion system, and then we see possibility to reach 10% actually easily based on data that we are collecting right now. It's still a question how much more we can do in the end.
Thank you. Then Ali Lauro again. Wing and ground concept?
Actually, this is so spot on that you must have been tipped off by somebody. I don't believe that this came out randomly. We did. Actually, we are the only one at the moment fully authorized by the Italian Coast Guard and all the relevant authorities to operate, theoretically, a WIG or a Caranoplan vessel. Well, main problem is the excessive costs of purchase and the limited amount of people that you can carry, because the models that are offering to us right now, more or less in the market, is 8 or 12, maximum 16 passengers. So, well, it's cool, fancy, could be in the future a very, very, very interesting solution, so much so that we have done our homeworks. At the moment, OPEX are really, really not making it commercially viable.
Okay. General comment to the panel. Don't ever underestimate the brain trust in the room. They're clever. Next one for Luke. Zero emissions since you started and presented in INTERFERRY.
Thanks, Anders. So I've been fortunate enough to present twice now at INTERFERRY, the last time in Seattle, when we were talking about electrification of large RoPax vessels. And I think at that time there were a lot of questions after that presentation about, you know, are you serious? Is it really possible to take a large high-speed RoPax vessel and fully electrify it? And I think it's you know, great to be here this time and hearing you, Anders, present about you know, exactly that. And I think certainly if I sort of reflect back on the conversations that we've had at INTERFERRY, this particular INTERFERRY, everyone is asking questions about, well, why are you not electrifying your routes, or can you electrify your routes, or are you going to put electric boats on? And I think that's a market change from a couple of conferences ago where everyone was probably unsure what to do. So I think collectively, as a body, you know, we've come a long way in terms of our understanding, and I think it's great to see projects such as yourself and the project that Gotland Spelaget are working on, that Stena Line are working on, etc., where there are clear steps being made forward with regards to these sustainable fuels and reducing emissions.
Thanks a lot. Jonas, what is the delivery time of your catamaran? When can we sail on it?
It's Luke's question, I think, but actually it's summer 28, and now I have to sit and wait.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Oh, that's a long question. Yes, the vessel has, please bear in mind that this operation in Denmark is a lifeline service. It connects the two biggest parts of Denmark, and therefore it's also protected by law that there should always be a route between these islands. So therefore, and in consideration of second-hand value, the vessel has been optimized for that specific route, which means that the wave patterns and so forth has been taken into account. And that's one of the only reasons that the weight can be reduced and the vessels can go battery operated with the weight of the batteries at the current stage. But of course, in the future, the batteries will be lighter and capacity higher. So last question. No, we will stop here. Okay, let's give a big hand for the panelists of today. Thank you very much.
Anytime maritime. Anytime maritime. Anytime maritime.